Okay, playoff week. I got my uniform on. I came dressed for success, ready to roll, bring the Eagles on to a victory this weekend. Welcome to the Bird Brains with Ken and Mark, everybody. I'm ex-Philadelphia Eagles, Philadelphia Stars tight end Ken Dunek. My partner is the longtime beat writer for the Eagles for NJ.com and Trenton Times, Mark Eckel. We've got a really special guest that we're going to introduce here in a second. And I got to tell you, Mark, the story behind this jacket is my daughter, Ashley, who really is my right-hand girl with the magazine, as you know.
She's the single, right?
She's the single one. Yeah, it's always the single first and the triplet second, because if it was reversed, there wouldn't be four.
There wouldn't be a single.
So she bought me this nice jacket, and I'm wearing it this week, trying to get in the spirit of things. And I got to tell everybody, I don't think there's a podcast that's going to get this kind of concise information, because you write for the Packers Report. We both cover the Eagles on a weekly basis. So
I'm getting a lot of calls this weekend.
Do me a favor, everybody. Hit the subscribe button, like this thing. Let's get the numbers rolling for the Bird Brains with Ken and Mark. Anyway, let me mention our sponsors, and then we'll get to our guest. This podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Gateway Mortgage, Chris Wilhelm. If you have a mortgage need, please contact Chris at 856-810-1222. That's Chris Wilhelm, Gateway Mortgage, 856-810-1222. We're also recording this at the luxurious Suite Recording Studios. Our host, our producer, Joe Gangemi, will take care of you. If you want to do a podcast, reach out to Joe at sweetrecording.com. And the January issue of the JerseyMan magazine is now up on the website. Go to jerseymanmagazine.com. A lot of great stories in there. And we're going to have our big networking party next week in Cherry Hill on January 14th. Probably be 200 to 300 people there. If you want to come network your business, contact me, Ken, at jerseymanmagazine.com. We'll get you a guest pass for that. Okay, now to our guest. This is a guy that came from Saginaw Valley State. Okay, and I was going to say the pride of Saginaw Valley State, which he probably is. But there's also a very famous alum from Saginaw Valley State. Do you know who that would be, Mark? And I'll be shocked if you don't know.
I don't know.
Matt LaFleur.
I probably do. But...
Matt LaFleur.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
A product. So I think when I said Saginaw Valley State, I kind of stepped on the lead there. Our guest today is Todd Herremans, the ex-offensive liner for the Eagles. Todd, welcome to the Bird Brains. How are you?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Now, listen, Todd, they listed you as playing at 6'5" and 3/4, 324. You don't weigh anywhere near 324 now, do you?
Not anymore. No,
How much do you weigh now?
Days are behind me. I don't know. I try not to step on a scale.
That's probably a good strategy.
But usually right around 260 probably.
Okay, so you lost 60 pounds in retirement, and I gained 40. So that's I'm a little upset by that.
You were a lighter position.
Yeah, but my end's not that tight anymore, as I tell people in my introduction. So anyway, it comes with age.
I would keep that to myself.
So let's talk really briefly about the last game, and I want to mention, I was just going to gloss right over it and go right to the playoff situation, but I was one of those guys back 45 years ago that they said, they looked on the screen and said, who is that guy? I never saw him before. So I want to make mention of the Eagles substitutes that played in the game and actually beat the Giants' first team, which is amazing. Eagles 20, Giants 13. Eagles finished the regular season 14-3 and the number 2 seed. Any comments about the game, Mark? The Giants game? Any particular, other than Tanner McKee looked good again, and it's comforting to have him there.
Sure. I mean, now you got to. Yeah, to me. I'll be honest, Ken. I consider myself a starter, so I took the day off.
Oh my goodness.
But no, I mean, I think that's the story going forward now. Tanner McKee was an afterthought all season, right? It was. Hurts is your guy and Pickett's your backup.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think McKee showed not just the Eagles, but the other 31 teams that he could be a viable, at least a number 2 guy in the league, right?
Oh, well, I think he's got starter potential. They've loved him at camp and practice from day one. All I heard was positive comments about this guy.
I liked him at Stanford. I remember him in college. I thought he was, he had something to show. I mean, he wasn't. but again, when you have to see him in a real game, I think, to see, and we did, and he looked pretty good.
Todd, what'd you think of the game Sunday? Those guys that don't get a chance to play much have their chance in the limelight. It was kind of cool to watch that for a bit.
Yeah, it was great to see. I mean, with I was personally a little let down going into the game because I wanted the guys to go for it. I don't like the whole, like, I understand the thought process behind it. I just don't like it. You know what I mean?
Todd, you and I are singing from the same choir book. I played back in the day, and I mentioned this last week, that players played, and that's what we did, and nobody seemed to get hurt because we were in such good game shape. And now listen, I get the logic of, well, if you play Barkley, you got to play the rest of the starters, and you risk injury. I get that, but so there's an argument for not playing him. I think you cheat the fans if you don't go after that record, me personally. And he probably could have got it in the first half in that game, maybe, if they really wanted to.
Well, I think if you're going to play what ifs about injuries, and you have to play other what ifs, like what if he gets hurt this game? Okay, well, what if we lose next game?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, there's all those what ifs.
Yeah. What if he gets hurt in practice this week? It's
I mean, dude, he could have got ran into on standing on the sidelines and something crazy happened. You know what I mean? Thank God he didn't. But that going into this game had me a little like irked. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, that being said, I loved what I saw, dude. They went out there and they balled. They, they didn't seem like backups. They went out there and they showed that, dude, this game really showed not how great the Eagles starters are, but how great we have done building a roster over the years.
It's a deep team.
Like this was a tip to Howie. This was like, Howie, you put together an awesome roster, not just the front 22, but even the next 22. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I couldn't believe there was that many guys on the field that they, I mean, did they have to sign anybody to get that many guys on the field?
No, they had them all there. I guess, did they bring some? I guess they brought some up from the practice squad. I didn't really
do
that.
You're only allowed to bring up two. So,
I mean, that was awesome. So I think that is despite what led to that, that's got to be a great feeling for the organization, for the franchise, for the fan base moving forward.
But hey, let's look around. The Eagles weren't the Eagles, they had the Barkley record. So that was why it was controversial, I guess, not to play. But, look at Kansas City. They didn't even show up.
No.
Right?
And the odds makers knew it, too.
Yep. They made Denver
a double-digit favorite.
It happens all around the league. Where if you're locked into a certain spot, and the Eagles have done. Andy Reid was the first one that I remember really doing it. Was when they would lock up, whether it was number one or they're locked into two or locked into four, whatever it was, if they can't move up or can't move down, they just wouldn't. Everybody rested.
Yeah, like you open yourself up to criticism if somebody gets hurt, but again, players play. That's what you do, in my opinion.
We know what bothers me about that when you say, "Well, we're not playing this guy because he might get hurt." Well, then you're telling the guys that you are playing, we don't care if you get hurt.
Hey, listen, Jordan Davis played a lot in that game. Did anybody notice that?
Played well.
Yeah. And you know what else I noticed? A couple of the offensive linemen had their pads on, even though they had no intention of playing, because if you have a string of injuries in that game, you don't have enough offensive linemen, so you got to go back in the game. And then wouldn't that have been a scenario if somebody gets hurt from that scenario? So luckily, the Eagles came out of it unscathed. Let's talk about Jalen Hurts. To me, it's the biggest if. Now, they waived Ian Book, which means they expect Jalen to play in this game. Today will be his first day of practice after sitting out a long time. And Todd, I want to direct this first question to you. It's hard to replicate game speed. And I don't know what he's been able to do the last couple weeks. I don't even know if he's allowed to work out or work up a sweat or get on a training bike or anything when you're in concussion protocol. Do you know anything about that, Todd, what they're allowed to do? And then, if he's back at practice, they got to ramp him back up. It's not like you walk into practice after, 2 and 3 weeks and you're right up to game speed. It takes time.
I'm not 100% sure about what they're allowed to do. I would imagine that they have to be held from anything that could cause contact. You know what I mean?
Right.
I imagine he's probably able to jog, do some exercises and stuff like that. But I think you have to really limit the amount of, or the chance of another head trauma or something like that happening. You know, like out of practice, even if they're not having hitting drills or something, you know, he could trip, fall, bounce his head off the ground, and then we're in trouble again.
Sure.
But like you were saying, this is my biggest, like, I don't like this at all. I like this less than I like going for the for not going for the record last week. Because like Jalen hasn't played in a month.
Right.
You know? And I don't think it's because he hasn't passed protocol. I just don't think they're pushing him to get in there. You know what I mean? I don't think they're pushing him. They're just kind of like, well, we can let the backups handle this right now. You know?
Well, the official team line was that he had not gotten out of the protocol yet. So, but you know, they can say what they want. And listen, it benefits them to leave the Green Bay guessing who they're going to play. Speaking of guessing, Mark, what do? Do you play Kenny Pickett with broken ribs, or do you play Tanner McKee if something happens to Hurts?
I'm playing. Hurts is playing.
No, if something would happen.
Happens during the game, you mean?
Yeah.
That's a great question. How is Pickett? I mean, Pickett gets if Pickett's healthy enough to play, I think you play Pickett.
Well, the diagnosis is he's got a cracked rib.
Well, then maybe I play Tanner McKee.
So that's painful, right? But they didn't listen. Here's my theory on it. Pickett has been a starter in the league. He's played a lot of football. He's probably the guy, even though we're a little bit high on McKee, what we've seen right now. Todd, what do you think? Do you think Pickett goes into that spot if Hurts can't go? Or gets hurt?
I mean, I think that with the starting offensive line out there, I don't think that the ribs is as much of a worry. I don't think you're going to be calling QB powers or anything. You know, I think it's going to be kind of more of a game management type system where you're hitting the open receiver and you're handing the ball off to Saquon.
Right.
I think that Pickett's that guy. I don't think it's a huge problem if they go with Tanner. You know, I think that he's proved that he can be on the field and he can produce. And to be honest, I'd love to see him out there with the starters.
Now, if you're the Eagles coaching staff and Kellen Moore, do you design as many quarterback runs for Hurts, or are you going to try to back off of that because of the potential for injury and what he's been through?
I've been saying you should back off of that all year. I think it's an unnecessary part of our offense right now. I'm not saying I don't like it being part of the offense, but I think it should be more of an element of surprise rather than, part of our first 15. You know what I mean? I just don't think that it's necessary with the offense that we have that we need to rely on running the ball with the quarterback.
Mark, you know, be at the Eagles facility that can teach Hurts to slide feet first instead of, diving down head first.
I heard they were trying to get Mike Vick to come in to teach him how to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They ought to get one of the Phillies to come over, right? Get Bryce Harper or something.
I think they've tried that in the past, and it still
never works.
Some people, yeah.
Vic was the worst at sliding. My God.
So, Mark, you're the guy with all the Green Bay information. Christian Watson being out has got to be a big plus for the Eagles. And then, Jordan Love, I was telling you guys before the podcast that, nerve pain, it can be debilitating. I'm going through a stretch of it right now with my neck, and it just kind of freezes you. So he has an ulnar nerve situation in his elbow. He was warming up to go back in the game last week if he had to. Is there any... How does he look? Do you know anything from Green Bay? And how?
From what I'm told, he's fine. He could have, if the Packers needed to win that game to get into playoffs, he'd have been back in the game. Mm-hmm. But they figured, again, being safe, being cautious, keep him out. Now Watson's done. Watson tore his ACL. He's right. He's out half.
How big is that? How deep are they at receiver? Losing Watson has got to be a blow.
See, I hate to say this. I'm not the biggest Watson fan.
Oh, okay.
He's going. What he does. I shouldn't say that. That's a bad way of saying it. I'm not a fan. He's super fast. Okay, he's the fastest guy on the team. So the defense has to respect his speed. So it keeps a safety deep, which opens up things for the tight ends and the other receivers, mm-hmm. Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed. To be honest, I think the three guys I mentioned are all better pure receivers. Watson his hands are shaky. He doesn't always run the greatest routes, but he can run. He can run all day. So that's what you're taking.
Sometimes that's all you need is to get that field stretch,
right?
Because if he is wide open, there's a chance he's going to catch it. You know what I mean? And they got to cover that chance. So.
No, he has. He's made some big plays. Don't get me wrong. He's made some big plays. But I think where they're going to miss him is it's going to allow the Eagles to keep another guy in the box to stop the Packers. Let's be honest, the Packers are a run-first team. Josh Jacobs who was a free agent. It's funny. I mean, you have Barkley that went from the Giants, one of the worst teams in the league, to the Eagles, one of the best teams in the league. You had Derrick Henry, who left Tennessee, the worst team in the league. They have the number 1 pick in the draft, so I'll call them the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
Go to Baltimore, one of the best teams in the league, and you had Josh Jacobs leave the Raiders, one of the worst teams in the league, to go to Green Bay.
These guys aren't stupid. They want to go to better teams.
Well, no, I think it helped that. I think what I'm trying to say is the running backs have been ignored for the last whatever many years. Here's 3 guys that have shown, and there's probably more. I'm just naming those 3 because that's what we're talking about. That have shown that I think running backs are going to start creeping back into the focus now. Yeah, Green Bay, they're a run. If you heard Vic Fangio talk yesterday, he even said, like, their running game has made their play action so dangerous.
I'm a believer
and they live off. That's what the Packers kind of live off. They run, and then play action, love, and then he has Watson deep. Now he won't have that, but you still have Dobbs and Wicks and Reed, and they have 2 good tight ends, Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, who was hurt most of the year, but he's back now.
Todd, I started my professional football career in 1980. Yours was in 95. You had a heck.
Whoa.
Wait. 2005. I'm sorry, 2005. Wait a minute. I'm old enough to be your grandfather. That just depressed me there for a second. I'm glad you pointed that out. But even back in your day, the philosophy back when I got in the league was you could play championship football if you can run the ball and stop the run. Was it that way when you got into the league as well? Because it's changed.
Yeah, I think when I got in, man, we had good running backs, but we didn't like to just rely on them. I felt like, we had Hardy and Brad, and we were winging the ball, 40, 50, 60 times a game. Now you see a shift. I think, I don't know. I'm happy to see the Eagles running the ball as much as they do. I'm happy to see more commitment to a run now, and I feel like guys are realizing that you need the run game to open up your pass game.
Absolutely.
Pass game to open up your run game. You need them both. It's really hard to just be a one-sided football team.
Mm-hmm. You also can control the tempo of the game, too, if you're effective at running the ball. And I think that's one of the big things the Eagles have done. It was comforting to me to see Dallas Goedert come back and play well after a stint on IR. It looked like they were making a point to try to get him the ball early to see what he can do, and he responded well. So we're going to need Dallas Goedert to make a playoff run here, don't you think?
Well, especially this week. One spot on the Packer defense is vastly improved from what they were last year. They have a new coordinator, Jeff Hafley, who's done a pretty good job. I think I don't know what their numbers are off the top of my head, but they're in the top 10. They were like 20-something last year. So he's improved their overall defense. The one weakness they have had is good tight ends have given them trouble all season.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Goddard's a good tight end. So I would, if you're doing one of those fantasy things where you pick the player, how many yards, catches, Goddard's a guy I might look at this week. Depending on what's
good. That sounds like good information for a player prop, Mark.
Just throwing it out there to you.
Thanks for
get back to what Todd was saying. What Todd played under, like you said, Andy and Marty and Brad. I remember Dorsey Levens.
Sure.
He was the Packers, and he played a little bit at the end with the Eagles. He gave me a great quote once. He says, "Yeah, Andy the only time Andy runs the ball is to give the wide receivers a break."
Well, I'm sitting here looking at the stats. The Eagles beat the Packers in the opening game of the season in Brazil, 34-29. I'm looking at some of the Packers stats. Jaden Reed had 4 catches for 138 yards and a touchdown in that game, including a 70-yarder. So the Packers, and if you recall, the Packers shocked Dallas in their first playoff game last year. So, Mark, what do you expect from this game? What do you think is going to happen, and are you going to pick a winner?
You want me to?
Yeah.
The Eagles are going to win, but it's going to be a good game. It'll be. Good. I mean, the Packers aren't going to roll over. Packers, they're a little banged up. They don't, like you said, they lost Watson. Defensively, now they've had 4 guys. Well, Alexander's definitely out. Their top corner.
Right.
He's been out for the last 7 weeks now. That's a little bit of a loss. I mean, it's a big loss, but they've gotten by without him. They've been playing. Now they have two guys that may be back: Quay Walker, their middle linebacker, and Evan Williams, their starting safety, a rookie who's played pretty well. They're hoping that they're both back this week. That would help a little bit, but I just think the Eagles present too much of a problem. I mean, Eagles offense presents problems for a lot of teams, but I think the Packers will contain Barkley. Nobody stops them, but I don't think Barkley's going to go for 180. I think they'll keep, because the Packers have been decent against the run.
He had 109 yards against him in the opener on 24 carries, so the Packers did a fairly good job on him.
He had 3 touchdowns, but that's a long time ago too.
Yeah, you're right. Two rushing, 1 receiving. Yeah,
I think the Packers will take away either Brown or Smith, but not both. They just don't have the manpower to take both of those guys away. And then, like I said, Goddard could have a big game as well. I was curious to see if Goddard would be back, and it looks like he played last week. He'll play this week. Although Calcaterra, he doesn't block well, but he's a he's a real good tight end as a receiver.
Hey, take it easy on tight ends that don't block that well.
I thought you were a good blocker.
I'm a little sensitive.
Wait a minute! I thought you became a good blocker.
Well, one thing that's done is,
don't ask the coaches.
Out there with Calcaterra, that could give some interesting matchups if you can get those guys on the field together. Because Calcaterra has proven that he can go out and catch the ball, make some tough catches too.
He's good. He's a lot better than people thought he was going to be.
So the Eagles play at 4:30 on Sunday. I will be at the game, but I will be in a suite.
Of course.
Yeah, it's got to be a suite. I'm not going to sit out in the cold. I'm too old.
How cold is it going to be, son?
Actually, it's going to be 35-ish or 40, so it's not too bad.
Warming up for what it is.
How
cold is it? It's cold today, right?
It's cold today, yeah.
How cold?
It's like the high 20s.
Yeah.
And I know you're it's cold in North Myrtle Beach where you're at, and nobody feels an ounce of sympathy for you either, by the way.
It was cold this morning. It was 26 this morning.
Oh, that's
I'm not used to that anymore, kid.
That's terrible. That's just terrible. Hey, let's go around the league real quickly before we sign off here. First game on Saturday is the Chargers versus Texans. What do you like in that matchup, Todd?
I like the Chargers.
I like D'Amico. I'm going to stick with my guy D'Amico. I think that what was it? They lost one last week, right?
No, they won last week. They beat Tennessee.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
They got back on track. They had lost like 2.
Yeah, they've had a rough stretch here lately.
I love D'Amico, but I like Jim Harbaugh in a big game.
Well, yeah, Harbs has got him going over there, but I've got more relationship with D'Amico. This is one that I'm not going to use football smarts. I'm going to use relationship.
D'Amico's a great guy. I interviewed him for the magazine, and could not have been a nicer guy. Hey, how about this matchup? And this is an interdivision matchup between the Steelers and the Ravens. It's at Baltimore. They're laying a big number, 10 points. There's no way I'm going to give the Steelers 10 points. I don't care how bad they happen to be playing. Todd, we'll start with you on this one. What do you like there?
It's just another one of those AFC North battles that could be 3-0. Dude, I'll take Baltimore. I think that they just got too much juice for the Steelers, but it's going to be a really good game.
Mark?
Harbaugh. I'm going to Harbaugh brothers all day.
Gotcha. All right, Sunday, the opener at 1:00, Broncos at Bills. I think this could be an interesting matchup, the way the Broncos are playing. Mark, start with you. What do you like in that game?
Yeah, this game's going to be better than people think. I like Buffalo to win.
It's an 8.5-point line, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the line, but I think Buffalo wins. But Denver's defense is pretty good.
Yeah. That'll
be interesting to see. The Bills have been rolling up, but yeah, Sean Payton's done a pretty nice job.
Yeah.
How many teams made the playoffs? 7 teams in the AFC playoffs.
7 each, yeah.
5 of them have a connection to the Eagles.
Oh, and what is that? Oh, well, Sean Payton.
Andy Reid.
Okay, Sean Payton.
Sean Payton was quarterback coach.
Harbaugh
was a special teams coach. D'Amico played for him.
Right.
And who am I forgetting? Not Tomlin.
Vikings.
Oh, Sean McDermott was his defensive coordinator.
Oh, that's right. There you go.
5 of the 7. That's pretty interesting.
All right. The late matchup on Sunday night is the Commanders at the Bucks. I think this could be a really interesting game. Todd, what do you think there?
I want to see the Commanders win this one. just because I don't necessarily have any love for the Bucks right now. Really enjoy watching them lose. Although Peyton Daniels does scare me, just not as quite as much as the Bucks do.
Mark, what do you think?
I like Tampa to win the game. I mean, it should be a good game. I think. Listen, I'm the one that told you before the season I thought Washington was going to be a lot better, and they were even better than I thought they would be. I didn't think they'd win when they win 12 games. But I think this is the playoffs are different. I think Todd will tell you that too. It's a little different. I think Washington might be happy to be there, kind of, sort of. Daniels, as great as Daniels had, he's still a rookie in the playoffs. Might see some things he hasn't seen before. Tampa's everybody always overlooks them.
I know.
And they make the playoffs every year.
Well, and they're gritty. Baker Mayfield just finds a way to get it done, and it's nice to see him have a little renaissance.
And there's another guy. There's another Todd Bowles.
Yeah, another Philly guy, right? Hey, Monday night we closed it out with Vikings at the Rams. This is only a 1-point line. A team that's wins 14 games in the regular season has to play a road playoff game, which is kind of insane to me. Todd, what are you thinking there?
Well, initially I thought that this was going to until I watched last week's game, I thought that Minnesota was going to be a lot better contender. I wasn't very impressed with Darnold against a beat-up Detroit defense there.
They got after him, though, man. That defense might have some injuries, but they were all over him in that game.
They also have a deep roster up there, too. But I just thought that Darnold was going to be – I think what they did was instead of sitting back and let him pick them apart, they said, let's just get after him.
Yeah, they did.
That was if L.A. does that to Minnesota, then I like L.A.
Mark?
This is the toughest game to figure. I keep going back and forth. I think, like you said, the Vikings, and although the Rams did beat them earlier in the year. They beat them 30-20, like week 3 or 4.
Well, I said last week that I thought the loser of that game between Detroit and Vikings would lose the first round game, and I'm sticking with that. I'm going to go with the Rams.
I'm leaning Rams too right now, but I think that's to me that's the toughest game to pick.
And quickly, before we have to go, the coaching carousel, our buddy Doug Peterson got fired from Jacksonville. I actually texted him yesterday. He was kind enough to write me back, and he's good. He'll probably, I'm not sure he'll get another NFL head coaching job, although it wouldn't shock me. But I think he could still be a great coordinator.
Does he want to do that?
I don't know. I mean, he's got enough money to where he can probably pick and choose, or maybe go to college.
Dougie can do whatever he wants. Shady made a good point the other day on TV. I feel like this is a product of paying the market, quarterbacks. Like Trevor Lawrence doesn't deserve the money that he got, but we're paying him because of when his contract was up and who was available that year. And it's just skewing things, and head coaches are taking the fall for it. And those Shady pointed that out, and I was like, wow, that's one of the things that made the most sense that I've heard him say in a long time.
No, I mean, there's no doubt that Lawrence has underachieved. He has not lived up to the billing coming out in college. I think this is
my thing would
take the fall for it.
My thing with Doug is, all right, when you go whatever they went 4-13 or 3-4, whatever they were, it's a bottom line business, right? Okay, I understand, but how's the general manager keep his job?
Well, the owner went on TV yesterday and said he might not. If the new coach wants a GM, he has to make a compelling case for him to replace the GM. And it was funny because he was at the press conference with the GM and talking about his own job. So I was a little uncomfortable. I could imagine how the GM felt about it. But, hey, guys, it's the fastest half hour of the week. And Todd, we really appreciate you joining us. Please be my guest at a JerseyMan magazine event. People would love to come see you. You have my email. Contact me anytime if we can take care of you with that. And before we leave, I want to mention to everybody that the 84 USFL champion Philadelphia Stars, which I was proud to be a member of, are being honored at the Philadelphia Sports Writers Dinner next week on the 16th at the Doubletree in Cherry Hill. You can search PhiladelphiaSportsWritersDinner.com. Charlie Manuel, Michael Barkan. There's going to be a lot of honorees. It's going to be a great night in a packed house. So if you want to come to that event, please check that out online. The tickets are available. And that'll do it for this week with the Bird Brains. Hopefully, we'll be back next week talking about our next round game. And if not, we'll wrap the season. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the Eagles are going to take care of business this week. So for our guest, Todd Herremans, and my co-host, Mark Eckel, this is Ken Dunek. Thanks for listening to the Bird Brains with Ken and Mark, everybody. Have a good week. Take care.